I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm BJ Colangelo.
And I'm Ansel Burch.
And it's
Time to
party.
We are not doctors. We don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly. Today's episode was recorded on October 21st, 2024.
Yeah.
We're back. We did it.
We made it through the TV or your headphones or some kind of technology. We're here. Party people, welcome back. Thank you for joining us on Time to Party. We've been having a great time this month. You might even say it's been real pleasant. Finger guns.
You might.
Finger
Yep.
guns. And part of the reason why it has been so pleasant is because we're talking about Pleasantville, the 1998 movie from Gary Ross, starring Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire. If you don't know anything about this movie, our good friends at IMDb describe it like so. Two 1990s teenage siblings themselves transported to a 1950s sitcom where their influence begins to profoundly change that colorless, complacent world. Yeah, that's the movie. And if you wanted to learn more about the movie, you might go to our second episode where we review it and discuss a whole lot of things, just so many things. And joining us for the whole month has been the phenomenal, I was trying to think of more wrestling adjectives for whatever reason. But we'll go with phenomenal. And no, we're not talking about AJ Styles. This is BJ Colangelo.
Hiya.
Woo.
I would be a terrible ring announcer.
I feel like you'd prepare more.
I probably would prepare more, but you know. Oh, party people, it has been so great having BJ here. As we mentioned before, I've been a huge fan of BJ's for a long time. And then we got to be colleagues at Slash Film. And now we're neighbors and friends.
Yeah.
And she's amazing.
You're amazing.
That's right.
Aw. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been so fun talking about this movie.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me wax poetic about one of my favorite movies and, social articles, so to speak.
Absolutely. It's important now more than ever to encourage people to watch Pleasantville. Because full disclosure, even though you're hearing this at the end of November, we're recording this right before November, before the election.
Yeah.
So
you know how it goes, but we are wrapped with concern and optimism and discontent. Speaking purely for myself.
Pure, unadulterated terror.
yeah, that sounds about right. And you know what better cure for that, or at least distraction from that, than edutainment. I did the hand thing because you got to, even if the hand motion is in your head, even if you don't know what hand motion we're talking about, you can feel it in your soul when you hear the word edutainment. We here at Time to Party like to include some knowledge in our party festivities, in our celebrations, right? Because what's a better party favor than knowledge? So we're going to talk about some things that we thought were pretty cool, inspired by the movie Pleasantville. Ansel, would you like to go first?
Oh, golly. Yeah, sure. I can go first. So mine is going to take some roundabouts to get to any point if we ever get to one. Because I wanted to talk about seltzer. So the job that David gets, or the job that David has as Bud in the show, is he works at the soda fountain. And I had the distinct pleasure of staying at a soda fountain that had been turned into an Airbnb over the winter. And I asked the guy who owned it, like, what the hell are these nozzles for? Because there were 2 different nozzles on the soda fountain, just like the one in Pleasantville. And he was like, oh, yeah, it was just so you could do 2 at the same time. But it was still, like, mystifying that there's, like, they had the soda fountain nozzles there. And in looking up the history of seltzer, I fell down a hell of a rabbit hole. So bear with me here. I'm gonna try and keep this tight, but there are a lot of branches on this road. So mineral water infused with CO2 is a naturally occurring thing that you can get in the world, and it has been around since the ancient Greeks. And the ancient Greeks, wherever they could find it, they could not get enough of it, and they were all like, this is great. This shit is clearly gonna cure all the bad stuff that ever happens to your body. So huge health kick around fizzy water from natural springs for centuries. If you fast forward into the 1800s, hold on, let me get the dates. Here we go. Yeah, so Hippocrates in Greece. And then in 1581, there is a treatise done on spring waters and the medical benefits. So they're again getting into the medical benefits of spring water. In 1700, they finally develop a bottling process that will allow you to get that bubbly water without having to go to the spring. Because for a long time, that was the thing. It's like you had to travel to this special healing spring, and whole cottage industries popped up around these sort of tourist health springs. So they developed a bottling process that allowed it to be shipped around the world, or not around the world, around Europe. 1772, they're finally able to impregnate water with gas artificially. And this is sort of the beginning of revolution into mass production, which was started by Jacob Schwepp.
Oh,
yeah,
Schwepppipi?
Yep, Schwepppipi, a German-born Swiss jeweler who started mass producing bottled water, fizzy water, in London. So Schwepp starts it in 1783. That's how far back seltzer goes. And I won't go through all of the innovations that happen here, because the thing that really caught my fancy was in the 1800s. In the 1830s, things are really catching fire. We're starting to see a lot more soda fountains. We're starting to see a lot more patent medicine. All of that stuff is taken off. We're about to see our first Coca-Colas, and it is at this time that the seltzer siphon bottle is developed, and that's the one that you imagine from cartoons where you can spray somebody with it.
Wise guy, eh?
Yeah, right. So here's the thing about seltzer siphon bottles that I did not know. You carbonate the water in the siphon bottle. So there's like a machine that fills the bottle with water and then pushes the carbonated air into it through that nozzle, through the like spring-loaded nozzle. And then they turn the thing over, and the spring-loaded nozzle holds the carbonation in. And because of the thickness of the glass, because of the amount of pressure that you can hold behind that nozzle, the seltzer that you get out of these bottles is significantly more potent than you get from like a bottle of Schweppes Club Soda from the store, or even the like carbonated water you get out of the spray gun at the bar. the carbonation is just so much more significant. And this is not important. None of this is important. Let's be clear about that. But it's a very different experience when you get these like classic soda bottles. They make the beverages differently. Like when you make an egg cream in New York, if you make it with a traditional soda bottle that's been bottled in this traditional fashion, you're getting bigger, more exciting bubbles, and you're getting, you know, more dissolved gas in the actual water. So there's a different amount of bite to it and a different flavor to it. And what's interesting is that there is a company in New York still making seltzer water in the old early 1800s fashion, with the machine that inverts the bottles, and they're still bottling them in the same 1800s glass bottles from you know, generations ago. And they're still hand delivered around the city by seltzermen. And there's a network of these seltzermen who are all in their like 60s and 70s. And they're all like individual contractors. They're like newspaper boys that just never gave up. So it, you know, if one of them retires or something, there's just not a new guy to take over their route. And so it's like a slowly dying thing. But starting in 2018, this last company sort of pivoted. The son of the family took over and has been sort of trying to push them into the new era. And so they're selling more to like bars and high-end like hotels and stuff, instead of home delivery, which is what they were doing for a long time. So it's possible that New York will save this old tradition of seltzer deliveries that are done in this, again, 1800s fashion. But that's where the soda would have come from. Somebody would have delivered it to them, and they would have had to like put it into their soda fountain, and it would have created a different experience than likely any of us have ever had. So I just thought it was really interesting. And there's one more little piece of factoid that I wanted to throw at you, because this is something that I was curious about back when I was doing my Dungeon Barkeep project. May it rest in peace. So the difference between mineral water and seltzer water is about that natural process that we talked about. So in mineral water, the bubbles come from natural springs that have dissolved minerals in them, and that includes like salts, as well as the carbon dioxide that creates the bubbles. And in fact, seltzer is named for a town in Germany that had one of these springs where they were able to bottle it, called Selters in Germany. Club soda usually includes potassium bicarbonate and potassium sulfate, whereas so club soda is also going to have minerals dissolved in it. Seltzer is going to have natural minerals dissolved in it a lot of the time. But that's not always true, because like these traditional New York seltzers, that's just water and CO2, and it's actually extra filtered water. So what's the difference? It depends on the bottle you buy. They're all going to be different. The labels mean nothing. That was the important piece of that. So that was way too much information about seltzer water. Who wants to go next?
Ansel,
okay, but that was
usually
fascinating.
Yeah. Usually our lazy river of edutainment has no ups and downs. And I think you had like a few drops in there. Like
I was not expecting to fall into that rabbit hole quite so deeply on my lunch break today. But I listened to 3 podcasts and watched 2 different YouTube documentaries about those about the seltzer boys in New York, which Yeah, was not ready for that to happen to me, but here we are.
I loved learning
If you
about
want,
it.
I will put links in the show notes.
I loved learning about it being made in the bottle, though, because it finally answers this question that I've had forever, which is that one of my friends has a soda stream and he uses it specifically to make fizzy water. And the water bites so much harder than anything else I've ever drank. And I've never been able to figure out why. And it's because it's happening in the bottle. And now everything makes sense.
Yep. I have a drink mate, which is, I think, the superior seltzer making device. And the reason is because the soda stream you are only able to carbonate water with. If you carbonate anything else, it voids the warranty. The drink mate, you can carbonate whatever the hell you want. And it is great. I have carbonated milk and tea and coffee and cocktails, and not all of it is great, but it is all an awesome experience.
Ansel Burch, you're a madman.
You leave me alone with a carbonation machine, and boy, it's what a wild ride we all go on.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I'm so into it. I love a soda fountain. There is this great one here in Pasadena that I used to take dates on back in the day, but during COVID they changed their hours so that they're only open 9 to 5 now, which is very inconvenient for dating.
Yeah, that does not help.
No.
Are they open on the weekends?
Saturday maybe, but definitely not Sunday.
Wow.
The ice cream is very good. The root beer floats, top tier. Oh my god. Before I start craving more soda fountain stuff, BJ, would you like to go next, or would you like me to go next?
I will gladly go, and I'm about to bring the room down because we're talking about propaganda for teens. I am talking about social guidance films. So, social guidance films were extremely popular post World War II, and they went through into the 70s. These sorts of films are ones that are often parodied in a lot of the media that we would have consumed as kids. Very famous ones include Duck and Cover, aka What to Do If There's a Nuclear War. And they educate you by using very cute animated drawings of turtles, and it's a whole thing. Also, the discussions of menstruation about feeling not so fresh, a lot of that is rooted in the social guidance film. So social guidance films are classified as propaganda, which I think is really funny because they were so commonplace in schools, in community centers, and in churches. Many of them were funded by the United States government themselves. So this was officially like sanctioned propaganda that we fed our children. But also because America is a capitalist society, a lot of them were also created by companies. The Kotex brand, for example, is responsible for many of the movies about menstruation and puberty because you're going to learn about the terrifying realities of periods, but buy Kotex and we'll take care of that for you. So these are the more common ones that people are familiar with. Things like growing up, those end up falling under what we call like mental hygiene films. Anything to do with your health goes in that. Some of them will also be about, bullying and taking care of, your friend groups. Those are also considered mental hygiene films because it's a social science and taking care of it. Driver safety videos are also very important at this time. A lot of the old ones from the 70s still kind of get used. I know when I took driver's ed in the 2000s, they definitely still showed me a video from the 1970s, and it was the exact same teacher and the exact same video that my dad had watched when he was in driver's ed. To some extent, you can also look at moral panic films like Reefer Madness, and a lot of these anti-drug propaganda films. They also fall under social guidance films. But I'm gonna just like ask a genuine question to the two of you. Between the 1940s and the 1970s, how many of these movies do you think were fully funded and put out and available for the public? By the end of it, how many did we have?
By the end of it,
Oh God.
I mean, there has to be close to 500 of them, right? Like, there's a lot, but like
Okay.
I was thinking way more.
way
than
more.
that. Yeah, because they're so short, and they were all covered. Like every company made them. Like fucking Disney made them.
That's true.
We had the whatever the nonsense with Goofy was, that I think is why we invented Goofy. There's got to be thousands of the things.
Oh, I just
There
figured
are an
they used a
estimated-
lot of the same ones, but
There's an estimated 3,000 that were made.
Jesus.
And yeah, there's quite a bit.
I'm happy to be
because
right, but that's too many.
It's way too many, and it's like kind of terrifying when you realize how large the scope went. Because on one hand, there are some of these films that I do genuinely think are beneficial. There are ones that are about helping your self-esteem, feeling confident, like those are good things. However, for every movie that was like, you should just be proud of who you are, there were as many, if not triple, that were like, here's how to be a good person. And it is essentially a
Oh, yeah.
guidebook on how to assimilate to white polite culture. And so these really
Here's
became
why you're
popular.
gross.
Yeah, exactly. Here's why you're gross, and it's because you're a filthy communist. So a lot of these exploded in popularity in the 1950s. So much so that when television was being formatted, the way that actors would provide information in these social guidance movies carried over into TV acting and TV storytelling and writing. If they were going to have an episode about somebody, breaking a window and, you got to teach some responsibility, a lot of writers would often parrot things that were in these social guidance films, these educational films. And so you can look at an entire acting style from a time period, and it's rooted heavily in straight up propaganda, which is absolutely wild. But there's a book that I love by Ken Smith. He was a writer for the Comedy Channel, which was like HBO's comedy division back in the day. But it was called Mental Hygiene Classroom Films 1945 to 1970. And it is basically the Bible of all things mental hygiene and social guidance films, talking about where they came from, what their impact has been on society. And the thing that I love the most is that these films exist teaching kids this is the correct way to be a responsible teenager. You listen to your parents, you do your homework, you say your prayers, you don't speed while you're driving. All of these sorts of suggestions. Well, the only reason that these movies would need to exist in the first place is if teenagers weren't already acting outside of this. Because the big thing that they try to sell in a lot of these movies is, well, here's how everyone else is doing it. Here's what everyone else is doing, and this is why you want to follow these rules to be like everyone else. But that's not true, because if everybody was already acting like everyone else, these movies would not need to exist. So this is one of the first large scale operations in American history of trying to control teenagers, which is at this point a new demographic. Teenagers weren't really seen as a demo until the 1950s, when they started driving around after a lot of them came home from the war. And suddenly there's this new age group where some of them have money, some of them are working and are in the workforce and are not in school. What do they do with it? They have their own forms of entertainment, their own forms of freedom. And so it's really fascinating for me, as somebody who loves movies like Josie and the Pussycats, which are just entirely about the way that we brainwash teenagers and try to control them, to know that it is very much rooted in these types of films and how they influenced an acting style that we see in movies like Pleasantville and the shows that it is parroting. And that is my edutainment for this episode.
Ooh, wow. Party people, we just got a lesson from Professor Colangelo. That's,
Aye.
I mean,
The focus and concision there was.
I mean,
And so many of these
BJ was a
movies-
teacher.
This is true, but I also taught like out of control kids, and I love them dearly, but they were a mess and a half. But a lot of these social film, mental hygiene films, social guidance films, they are available on YouTube. You can kind of look up anything of like, you know, social guidance 1950s, and you'll find a treasure trove. And some of them are super cringy and very cute and a little corny, and then some of them are terrifying because everybody has such like it's like a guidebook to becoming a Stepford wife, essentially. And I highly recommend if you played any of the drinking games or played any of the smoking games and the buzz hasn't worn off and you need something to do with that energy, watch some of these movies. You'll have a good time.
You know, that makes me think of those clips from The Simpsons when Troy McClure is like talking in school. Hi, I'm Troy McClure. Hey, Billy. What have you got there?
Oh, yeah.
Bovine University.
Yeah, it's definitely this.
But
the one that always got me as a kid was when South Park parodied Duck and Cover, because I didn't know what it was. I was like,
Mhm.
why would the advice be to lay underneath a blanket if there's lava? That's not going to work. That's so dumb. And then my dad had to explain to me, like, no, that was straight up what we told kids to do with nuclear fallout, was like stand under your desk and you'll be safe. It's like, that's insane. That's an insane thing to tell children.
it absolutely is.
You'd be farther along to tell the kids, stay right where you are. It doesn't matter. Like, why go to the trouble?
Right. Why give this false sense of security that is just going to result in all of us being in when the wind blows? Like, why would we do this to them?
Oh, man. I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to accidentally make it come to fruition. But if Trump and those idiots brought these back, I can just imagine what the topics would be.
Oh, God.
How to pick out a couch
I
with
mean,
JD Vance.
Like, I honestly and truly believe that the reason that so many boomers and people of, you know, the older age range are so susceptible to believing the nonsense that Trump or, you know, just their Facebook feed tells them, like, you know, oh, they're eating the dogs in Springfield. And it's like, the reason that they believe that is because they grew up being fed these sorts of films and were taught that it was truth. That if it comes from an authority figure, that if it comes from a teacher or a politician or a cop or whatever, that it must mean that it is true. No, no, it is not.
No.
Or worse, that even if it's not true, it is disrespectful and shameful to question it.
Which
Yeah.
they definitely have films about that too.
Mm-hmm.
At my new survival job, my friend who was an animator started working with me because I got her a job because she needed it, right? And so I was training her, and we were talking about something, and I was mentioning how I was questioning a few things while talking to one of the HR people, and she was just like, "Wow, how do you question these things so openly and not be so like anxious about it or anything?" And I'm just like, because it's all fucked up. Like, why would you believe this just because they tell you? It literally says in the handbook this, and they're telling you this. That's not right. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna fucking stand for it.
Wake up, sheeple.
You are all sheep. Bah. I could just quote teen movies for the rest of this episode, and I think
I'm about
that
it.
would.
But what was the edutainment topic that you brought to talk about?
Well, I have to say, this is not the original topic that I was going to explore. The original topic.
Did I steal seltzer from you?
No. That was fucking inspired. I cannot believe you did seltzer. That's so great. I was gonna do Underwire,
Oh.
but I had a question separate from edutainment. And I was like, wait a minute. Did they film Pleasantville on the Universal Studios backlot? And like, I was convinced that like the town hall was, you know, the fucking clock tower, and the cafe, you know, the soda fountain was like the Cafe 80s. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, just shot from a different angle, right? No, wrong. I was very wrong. So I looked into what it was, where they shot the movie, and then I fell down a rabbit hole, and now here I am with an edutainment about that. So my topic for edutainment this month is Malibu Creek State Park. It is located in Calabasas, California, and back in 1946, 20th Century Fox bought it after filming How Green Was My Valley.
Oh.
However, that wasn't the first movie shot there. Back in 1919, Mary Pickford's Daddy Longlegs filmed there. And then MGM, RKO, Columbia, United Artists, like everybody shot in this area throughout the 20s and 30s. So, you know, it's mountains, canyons, dirt roads. It doubled as like the Old West or Europe. And there was even some like sci-fi destinations, because some of the movies that were famously shot here at Malibu Creek State Park include Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. On the small screen, you had The Partridge Family, Charlie's Angels, New Adventures of Wonder Woman. However, arguably the most famous thing to shoot at Malibu Creek State Park is MASH.
Oh.
The outdoor set of MASH was built here at the park, and it's still there today. Like, all the structures aren't there still, but like the signs pointing to the different areas. There's an old ambulance that's still there, and then like the park does a really great job of preserving this pop culture history, because they have a map on their website with the various shooting locations, and they tell you how to get there. And then for MASH specifically, you know, there is signage and everything pointing towards this very popular part of the park. Because of the show's popularity so many years after, you know, its initial run, you know, generations keep coming back to this show, including our friend Val. Hi, Val. So fans of MASH will be happy to know that in 2007, the state park officials restored the MASH site by clearing all the overgrowth around the ambulance and like more clearly defining where the structures once stood. And now, today, this part of the park features the shortest hiking trail in the entire park, which is just the vehicle road that goes to the helipad. So if you like hiking, but you don't want to like go hiking, there's a nice trail for you in Calabasas. Now, Pleasantville, where this came in, they needed this mid-century town for the town of Pleasantville, you know, as a stand-in for that. So director Gary Ross and New Line Cinema built the town from scratch in the park.
What?
Yeah. So this would keep the production really, really tight, you know, because like they wouldn't be disturbed by onlookers, outsiders, and the like, right? So the town was built in the shadow of the hills that served as the set for How Green Was My Valley. Uh, it was dozens of buildings, and everything was paved for real to make it look like a real town. But when the production was finished and the set was removed, they kept all that asphalt. So now, where they shot Pleasantville is the modern day parking lot for Malibu Creek State Park.
Oh.
Yeah. So, in essence, the set of Pleasantville is visited every year by hundreds of people. But yeah, in 1974, the studio 20th Century Fox sold the land to the state of California, which now makes it a public park. And they still continue to film movies, TV shows, commercials. At one point, they did music videos, including the music video for the cover that BJ loves so much from Pleasantville, because they shot it there before they tore down the Pleasantville set.
Really?
Yeah. So that's just a little bit about the place where Pleasantville was shot. And I actually really want to go out there, even though I've never seen an episode of MASH yet. But I want to check it out. It sounds super cool. Yeah, I know. It's shocking. I'll get around
Put a
to
pin
it.
in that thought.
But yeah, so that does it for my little spiel. You know, I just love how there's so much pop culture history here in California around LA, you know, all within
Mhm.
a very short driving distance. And it's like I find something new every time I go out driving, you know. It's, or you can if you want. You can go and spend $50 every time you step out of the house to park and have a burger or something.
Are you familiar with Atlas Obscura?
I am. I used it. Well, I've used it so many times over my lifetime, but when I was going from Philadelphia to Chicago to move in 20, what was it, 17? I use Atlas Obscura to stop at really, really random places. Like Dave
Awesome.
Grohl Alley. Let's see, Johnny Appleseed's grave. Where else did we stop? Oh, the Christmas Story house, where my friend actually got her tongue stuck to the flagpole for a second. Yeah, we saw really random stuff. Like,
Oh no, it was a cautionary tale.
it was. Hey, y'all know how cold Ohio gets?
Yeah.
It does.
I mean, it does. It gets snippy. The reason I ask is I wonder how many of those filming locations make it onto Atlas Obscura.
hell yeah.
Like, is the map for your area just like
Riddled
covered
with
with
stuff,
dots
yeah.
so much that you can't see the roads?
One of my bucket list items from that website, I want to go to the town from Big Fish.
Oh yeah.
Because it's supposedly still standing. But
Oh, cool.
we'll see if I ever make it down that way. Because I believe it's down
One of my
south somewhere. And you
Probably.
One of my favorite little things, and this is in our neighborhood, Ben, is that Harmony and I went to Harmony's my wife, for listeners who don't know what my wife's name is. We went to a liquor store looking for, booze, as one does. And they had the McLovin Hawaii license plate in the window, and we're like, oh, that's cute, that's funny. And then we made our purchases, and then we walked out of the liquor store, and we stood and like looked around for a second, and then realized, oh, that's not just them being cute, that's the filming location. Like, that's the liquor store that he tries to buy booze at and gets punched in the face. Got it. Okay. And it's just in our neighborhood.
That's here? I thought that was in Culver City.
Yeah. No, it's here.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
I gotta go
Yeah,
now.
just like little tiny things like that sort of like pop up all over the place where all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I know you.
Oh,
I used to have this a lot, growing up in Chicago, in like the Chicagoland area, because the train, the metro rail that I would take from where I grew up I'd get on like where all the where the poor people live, because that's where I'm from, and then it would go closer and closer to the city, and then it would take you through what I like to call like John Hughes's version of Chicago. And so you drive through all of your Winnetkas and those sorts of places, and it's always really interesting to rewatch John Hughes movies, and it's like, yeah, those are the towns where the people would get on the train, and they'd avoid the train that my towns were on because they don't want to sit next to us because we're poor and dirty.
from the other side of the tracks.
Joke's on them. We're on the same train
there are
line. We're
so
on the
many-
same tracks.
There are so many places like that near our neighborhood. I went to a record store to like sell some records when I was just like, freelancing terribly and needed money. So I tried to sell some of my records, and among them was the soundtrack for the Muppet movie, which obviously I did not want to get rid of. But I figured, okay, maybe this will be a valuable one since it's limited edition, whatever. So when the guy at the counter looked through my records, he was just like, "Are you a Muppets fan?" And I'm just like, "I am such a Muppets fan, dude. I don't think you understand." And he was just like, "Let me show you something." So he pulls out his phone and he pulls up a picture of the Electric Mayhem. And I'm like, "Okay." And he's just like, "This is in the store. They shot Electric Mayhem here, and I got to hang out with the band all day." And I was like, "No, you didn't."
I would have cried.
That show was so good.
I freaked out. I was like, that is so awesome. I probably held up the 3 or 4 other people who were in the store because I wanted to hear more stories about just the band being there. And it was just so great. And real quick, I stumbled upon the store from the Greatest Hits.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You've told this story.
And
have you seen the Greatest Hits yet, BJ?
Mm-mm. I've heard Ben talk about it.
yeah, well, okay, so no spoilers or anything, but like there's a store that the male lead's parents own that plays an instrumental part in the story. And I was in Silver Lake eating at this phenomenal Filipino place called Spoon and Pork. Oh my God, the food is delicious. Go there. And I was walking back to my car, and I walked past this store, and I'm just like, why does this feel like I've been here before? And I walked in and I asked the cashier, "Hey, do movies shoot here?" And they're like, "Yeah, from time to time." And I'm like, "Did this movie shoot here?" And they were just like, "Yes, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it was good." And I'm just like, bro, it's so good. But like I walked back to the corner that's significant in the movie, and I'm just like, here it is. I'm standing here where Justin Min was. But I'm sure that happens all the time in California.
Yeah.
It's just an LA thing. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, party people, we hope you learned something today and this month, because it's Pleasantville really spells it out for you. So if you don't get it, watch it again. We give you tools to help you watch it again. That's what the whole drinking and smoking thing is for. But we can go on and on about how great Pleasantville is. But before we say goodbye for the month, I'd like to briefly go on and on about how great our guest host has been this month. BJ Colangelo is a gem of a human being, and is so phenomenal at her job. You should read everything that she puts out. BJ, you didn't talk about the book that you and Harmony wrote.
You're right. I did not talk about the book that Harmony and I wrote. It is called Sleepaway Camp. It is a part of a series with Die Die Books. It is a critical analysis text, also a bit of anecdotal humor, and it is exploring how Sleepaway Camp, one of the most weird slasher films of the early 1980s, has become an unintentional sacred queer text, and the way that the general public's relationship with this movie has fluctuated over time, typically in direct correlation to whatever is going on with queer and trans rights at the time with our government. So it is available at diediebooks.com. There is also an version of it available for the Kindle, but it is a lot of fun. It is hopefully very informative. And I gotta say, the last 2 chapters of it, which are solo written by my wife Harmony, talking about transness and talking about the way that horror's relationship with transness is not super great, but still very important, I think is worth the entire book, because I am nothing if not a wife guy and will always talk about how my wife is cooler and better than I will ever be.
I mean, you both are pretty great. I gotta say,
Respect.
Harmony is so intimidating because of how cool she is, but like, she's the best. It's so fun hanging out with her and you and all of us together.
It's pretty wild. Like, sometimes I talk to her and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, on paper, I'm the more impressive of the two of us, but actually in conversation, it's like, nah, she's the brains of this operation.
It's like, you know, that one friend that you have that has like such good taste in music that you're afraid to tell them what you really like to listen to?
All the time.
Oh my God. Because I can only imagine the things that Harmony would say about my playlists. But then again, BJ and I have similar tastes in music, so I'm sure Harmony said it all before.
Oh yeah, she just made fun of me the entire drive back from Vegas because I was listening to like a lot of pop punk and emo music. Because When We Were Young Fest was going on the same time we were there, so it was everywhere, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep listening to it. And yeah, she had her little digs where she got them, but ultimately, like, she and I also like a lot of the same weird eclectic stuff, so we're good.
Oh my God, party people. We gave you one hell of a party this month. This has been so great. BJ, we loved having you. Hopefully we can have you again. Until then, you can find us on the internet. I'm at bsilverio20 on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, all the things that, you know, have feeds and stuff.
I am on all forms of social media at BJ Colangelo, and my podcast, This Ends at Prom, is at This Ends at Prom.
Listen to it. You will not regret it.
I am at The Indecisionist wherever I can be found, except for Twitter, where I kind of am a ghost. And you can check out my monthly free gaming event at ttrpgpickupcon.com.
You can join the conversation by using the hashtag Time2Party. That's time, the number 2 party.
Or time, the number 2 party, all spelled out, thanks to Warwick. Special thanks to April Moralba for our podcast art, and to Marlon Longett of Marlon and the Shakes for our amazing theme song.
And now, party people, as we get sucked back into the real world with the magic remote given to us by Don Knotts, you know, other than being pleasant to each other, we would also like you be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we did it.